We have a very special guest today on Coffee with Lynette, Dr. Almatru Ott. Now, Dr. Ott received his accounting degree from Southern Utah University in 1982. As a promising young man, he went to work for the Intermountain Finance Group, and in 1984 was trained in derivatives, including futures markets and all that sort of garbage. But he spent a lot of time on Wall Street and learned how America operated financially. At the end of his training, and this is the part that really excites me, guess who their very special guest was? Paul Volcker, the chairman of the Federal Reserve.
So we were given all of this. Now, okay, how are we going to gel it together? So this was what we're all looking at. Okay, you've got insider knowledge that not many people had. Mm-hmm. So this is what I was expecting to have, that all really kind of mesh together. And Mr. Volcker comes in and proceeds to give each one of us a laminated index card that had some red numbers on it. It was protected, of course. He said, these are very important numbers. You never have these leave you. These are direct line numbers to the various mints of the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The United States Mint, the mints, the South African Johannesburg Mint, the Canadian Mint, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, these are special numbers. They're direct line numbers. You always keep these in mind because this is what you will need to do. He was matter of fact about everything. It was like, we were just subordinates, and he was giving the orders as a general on the battlefield. So he basically started the conversation this way. He brought in a metal wastebasket, a small one, and put it up on the table where he was presenting. Proceeded to pull out of his coat pocket a very large, long Cuban cigar. I'm assuming it was Cuban. It was pretty green. But he bit the end of it off, put it into the wastebasket, put it into the corner of his mouth, and then pulled out a money clip. And he peeled off the first bill in the money clip, Lynette, and I was very close to him there. I thought, well, this is different. It didn't look like a regular greenback. It was brown in color, dark color. He pulled it up and he flipped it, and then he turned it around and showed us, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was President Woodrow Wilson on the front. But what struck me was looking at all the zeros. It was a $100,000 bill.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sitting here doing a double take. I didn't know there was such a thing. There, can you break $100,000 bill, please?
Well, it was internally for the central banks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what good those would be, other than just to carry around and show people. I don't know, but he did have one, and his whole message was he took that bill, crumpled it up, then brought out his gold, looked like a gold-plated lighter, lit it, and then proceeded to burn the bill, and then he turned it upwards and lit his cigar with it. That was the metaphoric message, right? So he lets the bill burn and then drops it into the metal wastebasket. And it proceeds to puff away, and I'm not a fan of cigar smoke, especially that close. And he was blowing it out pretty thick. Well, then he proceeds to look at us all. He's just going to stare at us all. And clearly the impression was, I have big bucks to burn. I have money to burn. But he went and he brought out another $100,000 bill from his money clip and pointed and showed us all again. He says, now this is not for you. This is for one thing only. And he said, and I'll never forget these words. He said, this is for the consumption of the goy. Now, I had no idea what goy meant as a young 20-something-year-old. And I had my notepad, my legal pad, and I wrote FOI. I thought it was maybe an acronym, um, FOI, GOI, gross over income. What is it? What is GOI? I didn't ring a bell as an acronym. So I wrote GOI question mark, what does that mean? But nobody else seemed to know. Everybody else seemed to know what it was. I was just the only one in the dark. So I looked around and everybody's like just kind of nodding their heads. And then it proceeded. The next part of his message was, you do not use these. He brought out and he showed us the other $100,000 bill. His central message was, this is not for you. You need to do something else. And he brought out in his one suit pocket a handful of gold coins and shook them, clink, 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 clink. They make a kind of a neat sound when they clink them together that way, And then he just showed him there were some U.S. gold eagles. That's great, yeah. Of course, they weren't in the plastic. They were just in his
raw.
pocket.
Yeah, 1984. They would have been raw.
Yeah, and so he took he had others. He had Krugerrands and Maple Leaves, and others just to show. As he clinked them together, he said, "These are what you buy. You do not use these." And he showed us the note payable again, the Federal Reserve note. The recipe he was giving us was you take all your profits after expenses, which would be your net profits. He said, do it quarterly or even monthly if you can. And you buy these, use this, you call these numbers, and you can bank wire transfer into it, and we will provide you these gold coins in a special numbered box. And he gave us also numbers, the numbered accounts to set up numbered bank accounts with. And there was Swiss bank accounts, Cayman Island accounts, and even a few onshore accounts. Okay, so this is how you do it. That was the message. That was his only message.
So basically saying that you should take any profits that you make in fiat and convert it to real money gold. Exactly. That's what he was saying.
He didn't say real money gold. He just said gold. Okay, those. Yes, except they were not in plastic at the time. They were bright and shining and beautiful, of course. So here I am. He burned a $100,000 bill to show that it was worthless. And then he said, you take the profits, and turn them into that. Very good. And the second part of his message was he had a George Washington $1 bill. And he says, it may not be in my lifetime. It will probably be in your lifetimes. You will see this. Where the $100,000 Woodrow Wilson would not be any different than the $1 bill. Now, I didn't quite understand what that meant either. I'm sitting there, what? Like I said, the Ferrari was stripping the gears. Right. I was not expecting that. The last thing I would expect was that. So that was his 5 to 10 minute spiel. That was it.
We look at what the global central banks are doing today, thinking that they're being so aggressive. But, I wonder if that wasn't the start of raising the interest rates to give them ramp room and to give them a tool to regulate the rate and speed of inflation.
I would concur with that, because he was making it clear this was multi years in the panic. As he said it best, I won't see it in my lifetime, but
Hmm.
you may very well see it in yours. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
looking probably a 40-year spread, I would think, 30 to 40-year spread. And so it was clearly something that was not just in a decade. It had to be more like 3 or 4 decades. And so it was, and then it would also be 3 or 4 decades in the rearview mirror too. So
Hmm.
it's easy to second guess when you look at history, but if you're part of the ones making the history, they're the ones with the plan, not
Right.
us. Okay, so we can we can speculate and that, but I'm not a prophet. I have no crystal ball, and I do not sit in their big meetings.
Right.
And he did make it, and he did say this: it was not him doing it. He said, "The people, the men I work for, the
Interesting.
people I work for." Yeah, I would probably say I've interviewed a number of people in the know on this over the years, Lynette, and I would say probably 300 to 400 people at the top.
Hmm.
People say, well, Klaus Schwab today or Harari, and no, those are lower rung
Yeah,
people.
they are. Hmm.
They need to expand the money supply globally, and they again the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944. All of that set the stage for the U.S. dollar to become the world's reserve currency, and there's a wide range of that. So that's important in the globalization, but when they get that goal finished, then it's to micronize it. In my opinion, that's what they would be doing with it, to go shrink the market up. And I think it's part of their agenda. If you look at the Rockefeller Foundation and what they're trying to do, is to also kind of restrict the human population in that respect too. I mean, it's very much a part of the agenda. They really do believe. I think they're crazy, but they believe that there's too many humans on the world right now. There's too many humans on this rock, and so part and parcel of this in my research has been to. You mentioned health and wealth going together, very much so. It's
Oh,
no accident that the
absolutely.
same 8 families also control the oil in the world and the big pharma of the world.
Right.
Same families.
Do you think that we have entered a period of hyperinflation? What do you think?
I think absolutely yes to that. We just don't know it yet. I submit to you, the people in the Weimar Republic really didn't know it when it was happening either.
Hmm.
It takes, a couple years to say, what just hit us? I'm sure the people of Venezuela and the people of Zimbabwe would say the same thing. I just don't know. It's something that you don't see until you look back in the rearview mirror on it. So, but all the signs are definitely there. The fact of what's happening, and I've been following world events and kind of getting a little bit more insight into what I experienced in 1984.
There has been so much talk over what the last maybe 4, 5, 6 months about the US dollar losing its world reserve currency status.
Yes,
I don't
yeah.
think that's an accident.
Especially when you see the ruble now and Putin backing it with gold, like the U.S. dollar used to be. I
Well,
think that was
I don't know that they're actually backing it. They definitely have accumulated it to be in a position to take this
let me
offensive.
rephrase that. They're backing
Okay.
it to the with the petrol uh, market in gold, and
Okay.
Saudi Arabia is following suit. They're now taking their gold, and I guess they do produce quite a bit of gold in Saudi Arabia, and they're now backing that also with gold. So it's really the whole thing combined is causing the erosion of the Federal Reserve note like never before. And again, I don't think that is accidental.
Yeah, I don't either.
The powers that be knew that well they could easily protected Kabul and Afghanistan and not give us a real black eye with the OPEC nations. But that's what happened.
Oh yeah.
So it's under the disguise of the Ukrainian conflict. We just create the monster that is Putin creating all of this surge in the gas prices. That's nonsense. I mean, total nonsense. I mean, you here in Utah, I know for a fact that almost 100% of our oil comes from our own strategic resources that are pulled out of eastern Utah. We have huge oil fields there. We have the Bakken oil fields in the Dakotas. We really don't have a lot of dependence on Saudi oil other than just price points.
Right.
Okay. So
And you remember the oil crisis back in the 70s.
yes.
As we were making this transition. I mean, everything that was accompanying the currency shift from a quasi gold standard to a debt standard. Are you see? I mean, do you see what I see? Because I see the same things appearing again.
Absolutely. Yes, 100% so. Very much so. But it goes back to, again, what is even, why have sound money? The gold and the silver is always the protector against those inflationary cycles, always. It's not so much an ROI, return on investment, you look at, though that's been great in your market. I mean, you guys have concentrated, as I see it, on those numismatic, that's there's nothing holds a candle to the
Right.
value of those numismatics as an investment. Nothing does.
Exactly. My
Paul
opinion.
Volcker was 100% right in that. He was not eccentric. Okay. So yeah, you know what's amazing? When I'll admit it. I was stupid. I should have been more humble and should listen to Mr. Volcker. I wish I had. But I came back home, gave a report to the head of my company that I was working for, Intermountain Financial Group. And they just basically poo-pooed, like I did, Mr. Volcker's response. Well, you know, first of all, gold and silver is not romantic to invest in. It's not flashy, you know, high risk mutual funds, that type of thing, and subprime mortgages, packaging that is always going to be good, they said. So we did focus on that, and I was quick to jump on that bandwagon because I who wants to invest in coins?
See, I'm very grateful for my Uncle Al because even when I was a stockbroker, I always made sure I always told my people and even helped, even though I didn't make money at it because it didn't really matter, to have the collectible coins, gold and silver. So I was always in there in that camp.
So I've been following, you know, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation (NGC) and what they've been doing, putting things, serial numbering the MS-70s and that type of thing. We started, I think, in 1986, so I'm not mistaken. And so you see the pre-1933 numismatic gold issues. Nothing has held a candle to their ROI.
Right.
I don't care what it is. It's the best investment, period, ever. And you know what really drives that, Lynette, is not you or me. It's the elite of the world. It's the Paul
exactly.
Volckers.
You are so right. When I put up a graph of the rarities, I mean, it's in the stratosphere and it never left the stratosphere. And these are coins that, you know, maybe $1 million or more, 8 million, 16 million for 1 ounce of gold. There's a reason.
Exactly.
There's a good reason.
You know, you can't really, it's really hard to put a Mona Lisa in your back office. Okay.
Exactly.
But the value of these numismatics are so amazing.
We're of the generation where we really had a value. There was a value to privacy. That's one of the other things about physical gold, physical silver in your possession is that privacy. I think
Very well said. Very well said, Lynette. I was actually interviewing the Ottawa trucker convoy on my radio station, which is international in scope. I had the organizers on. I was not me alone, but I was a big part of getting their GoFundMe page started and getting the donations flowing into them, and it just like unbelievable. All they wanted was people to donate $100 and get a T-shirt and a hat, for heaven's sakes. Okay.
Yeah.
And it just went to suddenly they had $10 million flowing in. I mean, people just jumped in, and GoFundMe stopped it. They flushed them. I mean,
Wow.
it's like, why? So I'm interviewing the organizers of this in Ottawa and giving them a platform. And all they were saying, Lynette, was like, you know, half of us are pro-vaccinations, half of us aren't. But the point is, we just need to have control over our bodies. We have don't make it mandatory. Don't
Exactly.
force us to do this, right?
Mhm.
And all they wanted was a meeting. They wanted just to be have an airing of their grievances. They would have packed up and went right back. These are not the enemy. They're good, hardworking men and women, blue collar, that keep the supply of goods going. My
Right.
heavens! I mean, Mr. Trudeau, shame on you for not treating them with respect and with honor.
Absolutely. And I would say for anybody else, because then things happened and all of a sudden that was no longer in the news. But, people need to be aware of how easily, if everything you own is held inside the system.
Very good point. I want to end with that because this is huge.
It's
The
huge.
organizers didn't know what it meant to have their bank accounts frozen. Okay. They never dreamt that they would be treated as an enemy combatant, like an enemy nation.
Right.
Okay. These are citizens of Canada, for heaven's sakes. They're the people next door. They're the people that bring goods and services. I mean, goods, they're the lifeblood of commerce. So we have to unite as grassroots. We have to unite as, and I give this example out of what happened in 1933 with FDR's executive order, making it, 5 ounces of gold is
Right.
illegal. Why was that an executive order and not an actual, shall we say, congressionally passed law? I mean, come on, we have
Done.
$36 trillion more than the whole asset base of America. It's the debt is out of control. It dwarfs what happened in the Weimar Republic. It just
Yeah.
dwarfs it. So they have one choice, one gold ring to grasp, and that is the digital currency to come in and make the dollar bill obsolete. It's going to happen. I don't know when. It may be this December. Depends on how bad, Smoking
Right.
Joe is there, as to his popularity level. But the only way they can save anything is to bring in the controls of the central bank digital currency, the CBDC.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then they have all the control. You have nothing.
If you like this clip and you want to watch the full video, just click right here. And to subscribe, click right here.